And good afternoon, everyone. This is Ryan Miller with North Carolina Building Performance Association welcoming you to today's webinar. We are very happy to have you with us today, members and non-members alike. Lots of industry education going on these days, and we are very happy to be providing that as well. We are being joined today by Marc Tannenbaum of Dr. Energy Saver and Attic Systems Dealer Networks. They are a part of Contractor Nation and have been a long-standing member of NCBPA, and so we are very happy to have Marc with us today. I'll be providing a couple of logistics and housekeeping items before we get started. So just to go through those a little bit quickly today, we will be keeping folks on mute for the duration of the webinar. That is just to avoid some background noise and things like that. So feel free to use the GoToMeeting chat feature to ask questions and make comments, and then I'll be happy to direct those to Marc as we go along in the presentation. We are recording this, and so folks will be listening in later on, and we appreciate them doing that as well. So for everyone here live with us today, we will send you an email with the presentation and video recording soon after. So be on the lookout for that, and please feel free to share that with your coworkers and your partners. We do have a wealth of webinars going on with NCBPA these days. We've had an HVAC series that started last week for residential HVAC. We've had indoor air quality, moisture control, building enclosure systems, biophilic design, and much more. So we've got a lot going on, and all of those will be added to our course catalog on our website. So you can find that at buildingnc.org to see upcoming webinars, other presentations, and then recordings of webinars as well, like this one. So if for anybody that's not a member of NCBPA, we would love for you to consider joining our association. We are a not-for-profit trade association representing home and building performance contractors and companies, mostly in North Carolina, but we've got lots of folks across the country as well that work with us. And so please do consider joining, and we'd be happy to work with you throughout the rest of the year and into 2021 and help grow our industry. So I think with that, just another reminder to use the chat box and GoToMeeting to ask questions and make comments, and we'll be happy to address things there. So without any further ado, Marc, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Ryan, and hopefully everybody is safe and healthy out there, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to run through a brief intro, and then we'll spend some time really educating the team and the folks on the call about the line. What is the line in your contracting business? You know, we're talking about staying above the line in good times and bad. We need to define the line first. And then we'll talk a little bit more depth about strategies for staying above and bending that line to stay profitable. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions if there are any. And Ryan, obviously, just go ahead and interrupt me if a question pops up at any time during the webinar. So by way of introduction, Contractor Nation is the largest network of networks, if you will. We have about 650 independent contractors in a variety of different home improvement verticals. The largest of which is Basement Systems, which are basement waterproofing contractors. Many of our contractors also do crawl space encapsulation using our clean space system. Total basement finishing is just what it says, but a little bit distinct in that we're using a 100% inorganic system to finish basements, so we're not putting organic material in damp, moist environments. Dr. Energy Saver is our home performance dealer network. Attic Systems is an offshoot of Dr. Energy Saver, where we're really working primarily with heating and cooling contractors, pest control contractors, and even insulation contractors on air sealing and insulating attics. SupportWorks is our partner in Omaha that works on structural foundation repair. Radon Defense is our radon mitigation dealer network. The two latest additions are junk luggers, which is just what it sounds. That's about 30 independent companies that are helping homeowners lug the junk out of their homes. And our brand new one is Klaus Roofing, which is residential roofing. Then we have some service-oriented organizations, Treehouse Internet Group. We are generating leads for our dealers. Morehouse Finance is our own finance program that we offer to contractors in our programs. And then the School of Entrepreneurship, I'll talk a little bit about later. Much of the content I'll be sharing with you this afternoon comes from the School of Entrepreneurship. One of the things that makes us a little different than most organizations of contractors is that we are contractors too. So this is a picture of Building 3 on our campus here in Connecticut. We have 10 buildings on our 50-acre campus. This is a 77,000 square foot facility where we actually go out every day, generate leads, go make in-home sales calls, go install work every single day. So we share what we've learned in growing this business to one that operates, quite frankly, without the owner and founder, Larry Janeski, having to show up at all. We share all the process and tools and systems with our dealer contractors, and it's a very simple win-win relationship that we have with our contractors. When they're successful implementing these systems and tools and programs, and in their markets, they buy products from us that they need to install the work, and we provide a tremendous amount of support and training to these contractors. Part of what we provide is business management and entrepreneurial training, and that's where, again, most of this content is coming from today. So we're going to be talking about staying above the line. So what line do we mean? Well, what we mean is, what's your break even? Where is your break-even point in your business? And this is interestingly enough, I work with literally dozens, if not hundreds of contractors, and whether they're $1 million contractors, $5 million contractors, even $10 and $20 million contractors, oftentimes I find that they're unaware of what their break-even is. And in today's environment, given the uncertainty that we have in our current business and future business climate, it's really important that we understand where our break-even is. Because when we know where our break-even is, we'll know when we're making money, and we'll also know when we're not making money. So break-even is defined as your fixed cost divided by your gross profit margin. Now, this may be kind of a basic review for some of you that are listening in, but I still think it's important to go through, and for those of you, it's a great review. We'll also talk about how you can use break-even, again, to help work through some of the issues you may be facing in your business today. So what are fixed costs, and what are my fixed costs? Well, fixed costs are defined as the expenses you must pay each month, whether you sell a job or not, whether work gets sold and installed. It's also known as general and administration expenses, or G&A, on your income statement, and they're indirect. And what we mean by indirect is that you cannot attribute these costs to any individual job. So these are costs that you're going to have as soon as you walk in one day into your every day into your facility and open your front door. And you're going to have these costs whether you sell and install a job today or not. And this is just a quick little worksheet, or an excerpt from a worksheet for determining your monthly costs, and things like your payroll, and we multiply payroll by 1.2 to make sure that we're covering our taxes and our payroll expenses and things like that. Marketing and advertising, your rent for your facility. What does it take to heat your facility or turn the lights on? How about insurance and property taxes and your phone lines and your cell call? That's your cell lines, vehicle payments, right? Fuel costs, equipment costs. All of these costs add up to your fixed costs on a monthly basis. We have this detailed fixed cost worksheet that at the end, if you email me, I can make available to anybody on the call. And Ryan, we can also send it along to you, and you can provide it to anybody later on. So let's say we go through this process and we calculate that our monthly fixed cost. It's $100,000. It's going to cost us $100,000 every month in rent and payroll to operate our business, whether we make a sale or not. So you're going to put that into the formula under fixed cost. Now we have to determine gross profit margin. So what is my gross profit margin? Well, that's the percent of revenue you have left after you deduct your direct job costs. And direct job costs are those costs that you get on or you experience when you're actually selling and installing a job. Installation labor, materials, and sales commissions. Right? So how do you determine your gross profit margin? Well, obviously if you're job costing right now, that you can look at your job costing over the last 3 months and determine what your profit margins are. And you would take, or you can take what an average job is. Let's say an average job is, $10,000. And on that average job, you would calculate or guesstimate or look at your job costing and say, my material costs would be 20% of that, or $2,000. My labor would be 15% of that, or 20% of that. So that would be another $2,000. My sales commission would be 10%, or $1,000. So you would total up those direct costs, subtract it from your average job, and that's going to give you your gross profit dollars. Okay. And then you divide by your average job size to get your gross profit percent. You do want to get a good idea of what your gross profit margins are across different services. So if you're offering multiple services in your business, you probably want to get a good idea of which services offer a better gross profit margin today. And then you can do a weighted average, if you will, of those different services to determine what your overall gross profit margin is. So let's say you go through that process, and for a $10,000 job, it costs you $5,000, right? It costs you $5,000 in material, labor, and commission to actually produce that job. That means you have $5,000 left in gross profit dollars divided by the $10,000 job. In this case, it's a 50% gross margin. So to get your break even, you would divide 100,000 by 0.5, and you will have to sell and install $200,000 worth of work to cover your fixed costs on a monthly basis. Right? So this is how much work you need to sell and install each month just to break even with no profit. Okay. So what are 2 ways to lower break even? Obviously, you can increase your gross margin by reducing your direct job costs, or you can reduce your fixed monthly costs. So these are things that we should be working on today, particularly on gross margin. The impact of gross margin on your break even is dramatic. So for example, in the case we just outlined, with a 50% gross margin, you have to generate $200,000 worth of revenue just to break even. But if you're not as efficient in installing your work, it's taking too long, your production crews are wasting materials, and you have a 40% gross profit margin. So let's go back to that example. You have a $10,000 job, but instead of costing you $5,000, it costs you $6,000 in direct material, direct labor, and commission. So you have $4,000 left, or 40% of that $10,000 in gross profit. That's a 40% gross profit margin, and now you need $250,000 to just break even. Conversely, if you're much more efficient, right, you're working with your crews, and this is really important today. You want to be as efficient and cost effective as you possibly can be in installing the work that you have. So what do we need to do to get the work installed more quickly and without wasting any materials. Because if you can move that gross profit margin up, you need fewer dollars to break even. All right, so at 60%, for example, you only need $166,667. So you want to do whatever you need to do today to make sure that your crews are being as effective and efficient as possible. So how else can you use your break even? All right, so again, if you have a 50% gross profit margin and you have $1 to spend, right? For every dollar I add to my fixed costs. So if I'm thinking about adding a salaried employee or buying a truck or buying a computer or something else that I spend money on every month, you're going to have to sell and install $2 worth of work to pay for it. Conversely, for every dollar I reduce my fixed costs, I reduce my break even by $2. Right? So understanding where your break even is really helps you begin to get a very clear sense of the value of $1 in your fixed costs and what it means in terms of how much work I have to sell and install to cover that expense. Another way you can use your break even is you can factor your profit in. Right? This is very good practice to have. You should really think about profit first in your business and add profit to your fixed costs to get an idea of where my break even would be if I actually want to calculate some profit into it. So let's say, again, use the example we've been using. Your fixed costs are $100,000 and you have a gross profit percent, again, of 50%, and you want to make $50,000 a month, okay, in profit over and above your break even costs. So here's the formula. You add that profit to your break even number and divide by your gross profit margin. So I would take my 100,000 plus the profit I want to make, 50,000, and divide by 0.5, and that means in order to make $50,000 in profit, I need a $300,000 break even plus profit. All right, so here's the formula again. Monthly fixed cost divided by your gross profit margin equals your monthly break even. Another really good way to think about this formula is to run it backwards. So you see I've changed this to say anticipated revenue times your gross profit means where your monthly fixed costs need to be to make sure you're not losing money. All right, so for example, let's say April, given current situations with the coronavirus and reduced revenue that potentially might be coming in, or listen, I think I'm going to make $150,000 in June in revenue, and I know my gross profit margin is 50%, that means I have to keep my monthly fixed costs below $75,000 if I want to make money this month. So this formula, understanding where your gross profit margins is and your break evens, really help you think about where do I need to be monthly. This is more important today than really at any time. On my fixed costs, if this is how much revenue I think I'm going to get given reduced environments out there or stressed environments, how much can I afford to spend this month and not lose money? Okay. So let's jump to how to stay above this line. So again, the line in your business is your break-even line. Above the line is profit, below the line is loss. And you have to navigate your business so that you stay above the line, both in busy and slow times. The home repair and specialty contracting business is cyclical, right? We have seasons, weather, cold weather, warm weather, economic cycles can create demand, high periods of demand and low periods of demand. And sometimes it's predictable, and other times, like right now, it's unpredictable. But our job as owners and managers of businesses is to stay above this line. So here's an example of a business that's above the line in good times and bad. Okay, it makes money when it's busy. It makes a little less money when it's slow, but it's always making money, all right? In this business, it's both above and below the line. Again, you've got the cyclical nature of a home improvement contracting business. In good times, the owner of this business is making money, but in bad times and slow times, that money is getting put back into the business, right? This can be an emotional roller coaster. It can be confusing for owners about what to do or how to counteract this. We've got situations where a poorly managed business is mostly below the line, okay, most of the time. In this scenario, the business owner loses money, probably borrowing from creditors and not paying vendors on time until they're buried in debt. And there's significant problems in a business like this, right? You may have the wrong employees, you may have employees with bad habits, you may have a poor culture. And we see these businesses all over the place where, quite frankly, the owner is struggling, right? And really just really struggling to get their nose above water. And it's really not about money problems. It's really about how this owner is thinking, right? What are the skills of this owner? What does the owner need to understand and learn in order to get the business above the line, right? So let's talk about some of those things. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is bending the break-even line. So we should be right-sizing the business for the sales we have now, right? We want to stay profitable at all times, right? So sales go up and down in our cyclical businesses. What if our break-even line also went up and down, right? So in order to do this, we need to manage our fixed costs in slower times. Okay, so let's go back to this formula I just showed you before. We have anticipated revenue in these down periods of time. Sometimes the seasonality, the cyclical nature of your business, and I can foresee that, in, the wintertime, I may be, having a little bit slower revenue. I can put my anticipated revenue in there and where my monthly fixed costs are and drive them down as I need to. During those slow periods. So we should be tracking our break even. If you don't know what your break even now is or has been, you can go back, recreate this chart and identify the cyclical natures of what's going on in your business. So when we talk about driving monthly fixed costs down, we're talking about playing strong defense in our business, right? And we need to start thinking about cutting costs and watching where we're spending dollars in our business. So one of the first things that we notice, and we've seen amongst a lot of our business owners, when things start to slow down, they don't adjust their marketing expense, right? So we like to tell our contractors, look, in order to grow your business, you really should be about 8, 9, 10% in terms of your marketing expense. So you can see here that the black line is the marketing expense as a percent of sales. The sales line is the black line at top, and the profit margin is in green. All right. So, when things are good, this business is spending 9 or 10% of its revenue, this green line, and they're making about 10% net profit margin on the business. But what happens when the business slows down, right? The percentage of revenue of your marketing expense begins to climb, and essentially you're spending your profit margin on marketing, right? And your marketing expense is getting too high because of things that are going on outside your company. So one of the first things that we need to be watching is our marketing expense. So now we didn't say stop marketing. We didn't say, don't market. What we said was watch your marketing expense and allocate your marketing expense as necessary, or adjust your marketing expense as necessary. So the first thing that we advise dealers or contractors to do is Work with your vendors to pay for leads only. Stop paying for, if you're doing radio or TV or newsprint ads, really any kind of marketing, work with your media vendors to negotiate with them to pay for leads instead of time or space. And this is a technique where you can really direct your marketing expense to what you're really looking for, right? You're not really buying time, you really want to get leads, right? So work with your vendors and negotiate with them to pay for leads only instead of time. Another thing that we're seeing, particularly now, a lot of your competitors and a lot of contractors are pulling back on their pay-per-click and their web marketing. Customers right now, homeowners really need to know that you're there. They need to understand that you're still available to them to help them with their problems. So, where appropriate, beef up your internet game, social media. Make sure you're communicating to your customer base out there. Make sure they know you're there, okay? So this is about playing strong offense, right? We want to make sure on the marketing side of our business that we're communicating with customers and prospective customers. Newsletters are a great opportunity right now, both email and snail mail, to communicate to your homeowners. They're very inexpensive, and again, in what could be a marketing void, because a lot of your competitors and a lot of other contractors are pulling in their horns, you can get top of mind with homeowners for when we come out of this COVID-19 pandemic, and they will remember, and you will benefit from communicating with them now. Here's another thing that we're recommending our contractors do: call unsold proposals. Right? So this is interesting. If you're a $2 million business and you have a 50% close rate, which is phenomenal, if you close half the business that you propose to your homeowners and you do $2 million, typically that means you have $2 million, right? The other 50% of stuff that you didn't close on average, it'll be another $2 million of unclosed proposals out there, assuming that your salespeople proposed every single customer they went to, all right? What can we do to incentivize these homeowners to do the work now? Is it financing? Is it 12-month same as cash payments? Is it extra % or two off? What can we do to help generate revenue right now with homeowners, whether we're going to do the work today or even 3 or 4 weeks from now when we're better able to get into homes? Here's another one. Competitors are going to be going out of business. Some of the weak sisters out there are not going to survive in today's environment. Don't be shy about buying their customer databases, their customer email lists and addresses. It's a huge opportunity out there as these competitors fold and don't survive the current situation. So here's a saying that we like: revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is reality. Right? Cash is what it's all about. You run out of cash, it's like the blood in your body. You run out of blood, it's going to be tough to survive. So we want to make sure that you're managing your backlog. So where does your cash flow come from in a home improvement business? Does it come when leads are generated? Does it happen when a sale is made or when jobs are installed? Well, the question's pretty obvious. It's when the jobs are installed. So we don't want to run out of work, right? Because once we run out of work, we're not going to get cash coming in the door. So we want to manage our backlogs as best we possibly can today. So, if your crews are typically working 5 or 6 days, reduce them to 4 days a week, then 3 days a week if needed. Reduce your crew size. Right? So, Dr. Energy Saver and Attic Systems, we have 3-man crews, a foreman and 2 helpers. those crews are down to 2. Essentially, we're down to foreman-only crews, where we're taking foremen off of multiple crews, putting them on a crew and letting the helpers go. We want to make sure that we keep our most valued and trained and capable installers on the job. So we're down to foreman-only crews. And then, if necessary, you have to reduce your production capacity to manage that backlog. Right? We want to continue to be able to put work in the ground so we can get cash flow into the business. All right, so another strategy for staying above the line is watch the money. Watch the money more closely in your business. All right, so have your checking account statement mailed to you by your accountant. When you get it, look at all the checks. All right, if you don't know what a check was, circle it with a highlighter. Then tell your accountant, your inside accountant, what you want to know what the circle checks are. All right, if you don't know what right now, again, in terms of watching the money and staying above the line, this is really, really critical. Okay, you can grab the cash flow steering wheel. All right. And essentially what we mean by this is no bill gets paid without your approval. We need to maintain cash, right? So, grab that steering wheel. No check gets written without your signature. When you see where the money is going on a real-time basis, you're better able to take immediate action to eliminate the cost, reduce it, delay the payment, restructure your payment, and keep cash in the business. You can use, the shoebox strategy. The shoebox strategy is pretty simple. You tell your accountant to put a copy of every invoice that's paid into a shoebox for you, and once a week, right now, maybe once a week, depending on what your cash situation is, you get this, you get this shoebox, and you go through every single invoice, and you ask yourself these questions: do I need this? Do I really need to buy this or have this in my business right now? All right, what happened to what I purchased? Is this the best deal I can make on this particular item? All right? Why was this ordered? These are the kinds of questions you want to make sure so you do not run out of cash in your business. Another strategy for staying above the line is measuring your financial numbers often. Right? You want to be looking at your key performance indicators for all functions, the KPIs for each of the functions in your business. Right? So from a marketing perspective, the key performance indicators. How many leads am I generating? What's my cost per lead? And what's my return on that marketing investment in terms of revenue? I need to be tracking if I'm spending money on, Valpak ads or print ads or TV. TV is tough, but how do I measure what my return is on that investment? Right? In my call center, what percentage of leads are being converted into sales calls? In my sales department, on average, if I give my sales team a lead, how much money comes back? So if I'm spending $200 on a lead and I give that to a salesperson, on average, how much money is coming back? We call that average dollar per lead. How much work are my crews putting in the ground every single day? If you're running a service organization, things like, what's your average dollar per stop, and how can I manage that? So we want to be looking at these key performance indicators for all our functions, measuring them, and working with the managers in each one of those departments in your home improvement business to make sure that we're meeting and improving those numbers. You need to know your spread, right? And your spread equals your receivables plus cash minus your payments, your payables, right? So your spread is a predictor of where the cash is going to be in your business. So you need to generate a chart like this, okay? Where you put the data in, how much cash I have on hand, how much money do I expect to get back or to receive, less how much I owe people. That's your payables. And that's going to equal your spread. And you want to track how that changes every single week in your business. Okay? When the spread number is going up, that's a good sign, right? That means you have, you're anticipating more cash overall into the business. And then you can also put in here how many crew weeks of backlog you have in. That kind of gives you an idea of what the receivable is going to look like. And then your salary and distributions. These are adjustable, right? So if you're a little low on cash, you can put off your salary, not take a distribution. So this chart is something that you want to start measuring in your business. Right? You can go back and reconstruct this for the last month or two, looking at your income statement. But if you're not measuring your spread, start measuring your spread. Don't spend money you don't have. Okay, it seems quite simple, but when things are good, we tend to think about financing equipment or trucks. Try to avoid them. Right? Pay cash when you can. Those monthly payments add to your fixed costs and raise the line. Right? They make it more difficult for you to meet your break even. Tie as much of your payroll to work as possible. So you should be paying salespeople straight commission. Don't be paying salespeople a salary. And if you're paying your salespeople a salary, and you got to move them to straight commission as quickly as you can. And then on your install crews, your production crews, move them if you can to earning bonuses over and above their hourly wages based on how much work they put in the ground. All right, so when you do that, you get them on the same side of the table as you are, and they begin to find ways to avoid wasting time and getting more work in the ground, because they're going to make more money if they get more work in the ground. Give bonuses versus raises. So if you have an employee that's doing really well, don't increase their pay because that ends up recurring every year over and over and over again. Give them a one-time bonus to recognize their performance. Be careful with benefits. Again, benefits are the kinds of things that are recurring, right? You add health care, you add other types of benefits, vacation, pay time off. Those add to your fixed costs. Okay. Make buying decisions with the cash you have, and don't spend future dollars that you really don't know will be there in your business. All right. Well, let's say we're doing all this. All right. We're doing all these things to try to get our break-even line to move with the seasonality in our business. This graph shows, look, if you didn't bend the line in those periods where you have the red arrow appearing, that's where you'll be losing money. So, if you're still not profitable, right, you have to do more, right? You have to do more to lower your costs so you don't lose money. We don't want to lose money in our business ever, okay? So we have to get more defensive. We have to do more cost flow cutting to bend that break-even line down even more. So downsize to profitability. Cut all overtime. If you haven't done this already, obviously we need to do that. Right? Go to 4-day work weeks for all your hourly folks. All right, they're going to be working 32 hours instead of 40 hours per week. If you need to, go from to 6.5-hour days. What we need to do is reduce our payroll costs by cutting overtime and reducing the amount of hours that folks are working. Reduce salaried employee pay. This is happening all over the place right now where, salaried employees are being asked to take 10, 15, 20, 25% pay cuts versus being laid off. So reduce salaried employee pay. Eliminate monthly payments if you can. So renegotiate with lenders, delay. If you're in a real cash crisis, call your lenders, call your vendors, and either eliminate or renegotiate your monthly payments. Now is a terrific time to refinance debt. If you have debt, interest rates are at all-time lows. Call your bank, call people that you have debt with, and do whatever you need to do to refinance that debt and lower your debt payments that contribute to your break-even. collect all money owed, right? If you're in a home improvement business and you have, you know, receivables where you have customers that haven't paid their bills, man, get on the phone. Let's get that money collected. Make sure that your production crews are doing everything they can to collect money when that job is done. That they're informing the homeowner, hey, you know, we're going to, you know, we got 25% down. At the end of the job, we're going to be collecting 75%, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. Obviously, we're going to walk through, make sure you're happy, but we really, you know, tomorrow, the day after, whenever we finish this job, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're going to be collecting. Right? We want to make sure that we get all that cash. Just-in-time material ordering. Many of you are able to do that now. If you're in the heating and cooling industry, obviously, you don't want to pre-buy anything. You know, if you're in a home performance business, do what you can to order as you sell the jobs versus putting inventory on the shelf. All right? Inventory is money on the shelf. That's cash. All right? Anytime you buy something that's sitting in your warehouse, look at it as a, you know, boatload or bunch of cash sitting on a pallet, because that's exactly what it is. So do what you can to reduce your reduce your inventory by using just-in-time. You can do rolling layoffs, you know, with your people, a week on, a week off, you know, or you can just lay people off. You know, in certain situations right now with you know, the stimulus program coming from the federal government, certain employees might be making more money collecting state and federal unemployment insurance they would if they were working for you. Some people might just raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be laid off, right? So there are opportunities right now for you to look at ways to downsize your business so you remain profitable during these tough times. So another strategy, and these are strategies that relate less to our current experience and more to kind of overall in your business. So here's a company over time that did, you know, about $200,000 a year. I'm sorry, $200,000 a month on average. Did about $2.4 million last year. But now, over the last few months, they're at $300,000 and $330,000. So it appears, you know, if you look at just the last few months, that, you know, that now they're, you know, they could potentially sell, you know, $3.7 million in the next 12 months. So the owner thinks the business is growing and maybe starts investing, right? So we need to make sure that we don't overinvest and we don't mistake busy for growth, okay? So we have to ask ourselves the busy or growth question. Did my sales go up because outside forces acted positively on my business? So in the waterproofing, and I'm sorry, the basement waterproofing business, you know, if it rains, like it's raining right now here on the East Coast, and we get dumped with an inch or two of rain, and all of a sudden I got a lot of wet basements for 2 or 3 months, is that, you know, that's an outside force impacting my business? Or are there internal forces acting positively on my business? Am I doing a better job of training my salespeople? Is my marketing improving? Am I looking at my key performance indicators, and am I seeing a trend in my marketing effectiveness and return on marketing? Am I getting better lead sources? Did I add another service to my business that's really working well for me? So what you really want to look at to help differentiate between busy and growth in your business is where are the low points, right? If the troughs in your business are coming up, the low points in your business are moving up, that's a much better indicator of growth and cash flow in your business that you can really, really rely on. So again, we want to be tracking this and looking at the, you know, are the low points getting better? Not so much the busy times, right? I may not be able to rely on that busy time in the future. All right, so where are there opportunities in the time of crisis? I just want to touch on a few things that we're seeing out there and share that with the folks on the webinar. So obviously marketing, we talked a little bit about that before. or earlier, a lot of your competitors right now are pulling in their horns, right? They're not playing any offense, right? It's not about playing smart offense. They're not playing any offense. So they're not communicating, not spending anything. So this is a tremendous opportunity to get out in front of and get homeowners to be aware of you and your company. And I'm not talking about even marketing for sales appointments or those types of things. Obviously, you want to do that, but how can we help educate homeowners and be there for them in ways that they appreciate in current times? Okay. Recruiting employees. Over the last 3 weeks, 16 million people applied for unemployment benefits. There's a lot of good people who have been laid off that might be looking for different opportunities right now. And with the CARES Act and the Payroll Protection Plan, there may even be incentives for you to bring people back into your organization. So you may lay one person off and replace them with somebody more capable or competent and be able to benefit from the Payroll Protection Plan. Don't pull in your horns in terms of attracting and interviewing and even recruiting employees. Here at Dr. Energy Saver Contractor Nation, we've hired 3 or 4 people in the last couple of weeks because these people are all of a sudden available that weren't available a month ago. Right, so this is a tremendous opportunity for all of us in this business right now to find folks that may not have been available to us just a few short weeks ago. One of the silver linings in this crisis is that some of our competition will not survive. They're just not equipped to make it through this period. And we talked a little bit earlier about looking for opportunities to buy equipment, buy customer lists and databases and those types of things. Tremendous opportunity out there. So my advice to everybody is, look, just be aware of what's happening, not just to you, but to the business community in your areas, and don't forget about these opportunities out there. And finally, the CARES Act. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the CARES Act. There have been lots of different webinars from a variety of different sources on that, but make sure you're taking advantage of everything available from the federal government that's in the CARES Act. There's tremendous opportunities in there, and the Payroll Protection Act and SBA loan forgiveness and things like that. So if you haven't done so, make sure you learn everything you can about how the CARES Act will help you. All right, so we're almost done here. Early on, when I had the screen up of the Contractor Nation, all the different organizations in our network, I had the School of Entrepreneurship online. Again, most of the material came from these 2 exercises in the School of Entrepreneurship, your break even and staying above the line. The School of Entrepreneurship is an online course for owners of home improvement companies. And it's about a 3-year course, and the materials in here have predominantly been created by Larry Janeski, our CEO and founder. And we've made these really what he's learned and we've learned over the last 30 years and how to build, for example, here in Connecticut, a $30 million home improvement business that works without having the owner show up ever. We've shared all that in the School of Entrepreneurship online. If you're interested, you can sign up www.thesoe.com for a free trial, or you can email me and get access for a couple of weeks to the material in the School of Entrepreneurship. So, in closing, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, but the one most responsive to change, darling. And in today's environment, we have to be nimble and very, very responsive to change. It's challenging to stay above the line even in good days, and hopefully the information I shared with you this afternoon will help you identify the break-even line, identify the line in your business, bend the line so you can stay above it in good times and bad. So thank you, and Ryan, that's it for the presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Marc. This is Ryan with NCBPA checking back in. And Marc, we appreciate all your time here. You've provided a wealth of great information that I know is very top of mind to folks these days. I think some of the themes I heard was how to make sure that your business can survive, and that the workers that you're able to keep or want to be able to keep, find any way to be able to do that. While also trying to make sure that you maintain your customer base. So, and then the competition element's interesting as well. There, of course, are going to be some silver linings for things like this, but we're definitely all trying to kind of get through it at the moment. So, appreciate all the advice there. So, well, we'll keep Marc on here for a couple of minutes and see if there are any questions from folks listening in here live on the webinar. If you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat box. And we'll be happy to present that to Marc. The other option, if you'd like to, is just to take yourself off of mute and feel free to voice your question. We don't mind that either, as we're here towards the end for some questions and answers. So while folks are thinking about questions, just a reminder that we have been recording this. We will post this online this afternoon and send out a recording so everyone will have a chance to see it. And then we've got more webinars being scheduled. Those will all be on the NCBPA website at buildingnc.org. So we'll take a quick pause and just see if there are any questions and see if those come in. And if not, we'll offer a little bit of a goodbye here and a little bit of next steps as well. So just a quick pause and see if there's any questions from folks. Okay. So maybe while folks are thinking about it, Marc, I do have one question for you that's something that we've spoken about a lot over the years. So maybe the short answer to this question, because I know it's a big topic, but have you seen or heard, or your businesses looking into sort of new partnerships, with potentially competitors or folks down the street, so to speak? Is that something that you or other folks have been kind of considering as we kind of get through these crazy times right now?
Probably not so much with direct competitors. I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot more collaboration going on. One of the things that we see that in Contractor Nation all the time, because we're pretty much in non-competitive markets. We have a Dr. Andy Saber in upstate New York. We don't have 6 of them. We have 1, and he can call somebody down in Virginia. But I think what you're seeing is complementary businesses that might be working together and being more open to dialogue about how do we survive the environment. I know there's an awful lot of dialogue going on in the heating and cooling industry among peer groups and things like that, but not a whole lot with direct competitors, Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, I know some folks are maybe looking to diversify and if they're doing home performance, get into HVAC, or something like that. So I'm just kind of wondering if folks are looking into some of those opportunities.
Well, they're looking to buy what's happened. People are buying. We have home performance companies that are, in our network that are. One of the things that are happening, the baby boomers are beginning to retire, and the baby boomers that own home improvement companies oftentimes don't have anybody in their family that's interested in taking the business over. So they're looking to monetize, right, to cash out their business. They're in the mid to late 60s, early 70s sometimes. And I've seen several of our home performance companies purchase heating and cooling companies, right? And they're purchasing a technician or maybe a little bit of equipment and a customer list. We're seeing that happen a lot right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, as well as just consolidation in the heating and cooling industry, because it's perceived as a hedge against a recession.
Gotcha. Okay. So Mark, we've got one question from Dan, who's an industry friend up in the Northwest. Hello, Dan. Dan's question, first he said great info, so thank you, Mark, for that. Dan's question is, the information you've been sharing has been primarily based on KPIs that are maybe a little bit more quantitative, so to speak. How do you view trying to change culture during times of challenge like we're in right now? How about that question, Mark?
That's a good question. So what I'll share is what we've advised some of the owners of our contractors in our networks. You know, with the business slowing down, let me back up. Culture is oftentimes, culture is a byproduct of how your employees interact with each other and certainly with their customers. And oftentimes, culture is defined by the lowest common denominator in your employee pool. So you may have a bad actor or two, or an actor or two in your business who doesn't comply or doesn't embody and support and even promote the culture. So it's an interesting time where, look, if we're looking to cut people in our business and bend the line, bend our break-even line, reduce our break-even, you may even have a high performer right now in the sales organization, for example, that we don't have any leads for, so now might be a good time to let that person go. Or somebody on your, those may be the first people that we choose to lay off. So, there's addition by subtraction, if you will, on the culture front. Culture is not something that is created in a day. So I think, the most direct opportunity is to think about, do you have the right people on the bus, right? As the owner and leader of a company, a home improvement company, a big part of your responsibility is to make sure you got the right people on the bus and the right people on the seats in the bus. So now's a great opportunity to reevaluate that. Ask yourself, would I rehire this person? And if you really can't answer that question positively from a culture point of view, now might be a good time to lay that person off.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for that feedback. It's helpful to have. And Dan says thanks as well. Yeah, on behalf of NCBPA, we've been hearing about some companies in our membership laying off workers or doing furloughs and things like that. And it's a little hard to kind of make a right turn on the culture quickly, as you said. But definitely a lot of considerations out there about how to make the business better overall while we're in this time of transition, so to speak. So. Well, I think that does it for the questions from the folks live here, Mark. So I think we are good. I'll just say thank you to everybody, including all of our members, for joining in live and folks listening in later on. Mark, any final comments from yourself?
No, thank you again, Ryan, for letting me contribute. People have any questions for me directly, they can call me or email me at the information on the screen. Be glad to help in any way I can. And be safe and be healthy.
Absolutely. We second that. Well, thank you, Mark, so much for your time, and we appreciate it. And everybody have a good rest of your week and stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks very much.